So first and foremost, I'm Wolf. You guys know that. Thank you for uh, checking this out. This is my first time, so bear with me. It's a little different doing live versus recording on a camera. Um, so tonight I'm gonna put it all on the table. There's no script, obviously. I'm gonna cover basically, how I bled out. Um, Not to dwell on that story, but to bridge it from what it was 10 years ago and how I fixed my mind, my brain, because I don't really cover that in detail in the video that I did. Um, Nobody's coming to save you. That was the first video I posted. Anyway, so going back 10 years ago, um, I went through the divorce. I'm not going to recap everything, but if anybody's in here that's new, this will get you up to speed. So 10 years ago, I went through a divorce, and that was the start of the heavy drinking, and it was bad. And I got so bad so fast at it that within 4 months after the divorce, I was drunk by 7 a.m. And I mean drunk, like half a fifth of vodka and a 12 pack of beer or something like that. I mean, it was bad. So on June 4th, 2016, I was on my way up Cedar Canyon in Utah, dumping vodka in my coffee and the whole 9 yards. Um, Early in the morning, it was like, I think, 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And I blacked out, rolled the truck, was ejected through the window of the vehicle, and and you can see the scarring on my face where it crushed in my cheekbone. But anyway, when I was ejected and I hit the rock face, I landed on the bank of the river, and tons of bones in my body were broken, and it was bad. It was so bad. When I woke up, the I was staring at the bottom of my truck, and just going back to the my military days, my first reaction was do a self-assessment. Maybe it was the military training, I don't know, probably, but that's what I did. And I started wiggling my hands and my fingers and toes, and to make sure I wasn't paralyzed, because I didn't know what the extent of the damage was. And I just remember staring at the perfectly blue sky, blood everywhere. I mean, it was horrendous. And I immediately had a bunch of help that pulled off the side of the bank, and ran down to the river where I was at. And anyway, I won't bore you with all the details, but it was really bad. And I had about 5 or 10 people that had surrounded me, and they were trying to talk to me and keep me coherent and awake. Well, the life flight finally showed, or the ambulance showed up first, but because I was in a canyon and so heavily damaged, my body, they couldn't move me except directly to an ambulance, and then they had to drive me to the nearest open field, or where because I was in a canyon, and so once we got to a place where they could pull off into a field, it opened up, and they life flighted me from there. And I survived without blacking out or passing out or whatever, all the way back to St. George, where I'm from, right? And as soon as we got off the chopper, and God bless that EMT, he was the nicest guy ever. He kept rubbing my chest right here, trying to keep me awake. And at that point, as soon as I got out of the chopper on that little cart thing, that they've got you laying on, I completely blacked out and went into cardiac arrest, or started to. And apparently, at that point, I don't know anything from that point. So I woke up 3 days later, or excuse me, a few hours later, and the surgeon told me what happened. I flatlined, my heart stopped, and I died twice. I guess when they were doing surgery, and I've got a scar from just below my belly button down to where they had to reset my pelvic bone in place, and things like that. They drained 5.5 pints of blood out of my stomach cavity. So that was the accident, and it was really bad. Now, the interesting part, though, was after I left the hospital, the subsequent weeks following that, scenario, I started to forget things from the head trauma. Now, keep in mind, and I think I say this in the first video, I was a dingbat, and I didn't set up my VA stuff when I got out of the Army in 2013, I believe it was, late 2012 or 2013. And so I wasn't covered. Well, I paid out of pocket with what money I had left to go see a neurologist, because something was wrong. I was forgetting names. I started forgetting, mid-sentence conversations when I was, talking to people. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Well, the neurologists basically they all said the same thing. I saw 3 different neurologists, and their answer, I remember like yesterday: expect this to be the new norm. That's what they told me. This is going to be your new norm. So obviously I couldn't let that happen. So as time goes on, and keep in mind, during this time, I had, I'm dealing with the PTSD, if you will, not just from the Army, because I have that too. But the PTSD from the accident. And not to get off topic, but I just have to say that the experience that I had when I was dead, I guess that's when it was crazy. I'm not a real religious person. I definitely believe in the good man upstairs, but I don't go to church or anything. Well, I think that God showed me exactly what I needed to see. I relived the accident over again in slow motion, floating outside of the truck as it's rolling. It rolled like 6, 8, 10 times or whatever it was. So anyway, that was interesting. And anyway, it doesn't matter. But when I was floating outside the truck, something told me not to give up. And so when my face inside the vehicle was about to punch through the window, I leaned forward, and we touched on both sides of the glass, and I felt the biggest jolt of electricity. That's what it felt like, that I have ever felt in my life. And then I took a deep breath, and I was ripping hoses out of my lungs and whatever from surgery. So I don't know if that's when they revived me or what, but anyway, I thought that was interesting. So anyway, getting back to the deal with the brain issues. Sorry. So with the with the brain fog going on and forgetting names and everything else, I had this hobby back then of growing mushrooms. Well, I had read, in lots of different places that lion's mane and things like that are good for the brain. They'll help you, clear the brain fog and whatever. So I went out and I literally bought every single mushroom supplement you could imagine in terms for the brain, lion's mane, things like that. And none of it did a damn thing. Not a single one of them. And I tried them all of them. So that's how I got into really cultivating mushrooms. And believe it or not, when I started growing my own lion's mane, then I was testing different methods of, dehydrating it or whatever. I ended up basically coming to one conclusion after many, many different trials and errors. I grow the mushroom with the fruit body, right? Concerning the lion's mane specifically, the fruit body grows out of the bag because it's in a what do you call it? Controlled environment, right? And I'm trying to explain how to do this. So when I grow them out of the bag, I also leave it sealed in the bag for the first X amount of months, right? And by doing that, it grows a lot of mycelium. Now, this is important because if you're trying to fix your brain, and I'm talking about myself, I was trying to fix my brain. All the research I did told me that lion's mane fruit body has hericenones. That's a compound that is only available in the fruit body. Well, the mycelium, which is like the root structure underneath in the ground or whatever, or in the tree, because they grow on wood, right? It has a compound called erinacines. So hericenones and erinacines. And I wanted both because the erinacines in the mycelium, which is what is in the ground or underground, it's a compound that sparks nerve growth factor, right? And you can research all this. I mean, all the research I've done on this stuff is not from Google. I studied, peer-reviewed journals and scientific, studies and things like that from universities and different PhD type folks. But so when I let it grow in the bag, the mycelium grows because it's searching for oxygen in the bag. Then I expose it to oxygen, and then it produces the fruit body. So you get the best of both worlds. I'm getting both compounds. Then I put it into a massive autoclave. Back then I had a much smaller setup. Now I've got professional medical grade autoclaves, basically big pressure cookers, right? And I basically pressure cook it. It's a heat and pressure extraction for 60 minutes. That breaks down the cell walls, which in turn makes all the compounds way more bioavailable because it's a myth. When you do mushroom supplements that you get from grocery stores, it's a myth that your body digests it and you actually get the beneficial compounds. Now, and I promise I'm getting to the point here. So because I do that, and then I do the heat and pressure extraction, I get all the compounds and it's bioavailable to the body. I started taking that. versus store-bought. And I did it with black pearl king oyster mushrooms as well, because that helps the immune system. And black pearl king has a compound in it called ergothioneine, which helps the oxidization of cells. It's a super antioxidant. And its primary function is to help stressed organs in the body. And I had a lot of stressed organs from the accident because of all my ribs being broken. 3 of them had separated from my spine, and they were broken into little 1-inch pieces, and they were stabbing organs inside. So a lot of damage. So anyway, when I started taking this stuff, within probably 2 weeks, I started to notice a massive difference in my cognitive ability. And so obviously I can't make medical claims. I mean, even if this is live, I would never make medical claims, but it worked. It worked for me. And when I look back now, between lots of therapy, and doing the lion's mane and the black pearl king, it worked. And I don't know any other supplement that actually has an effect like the mushrooms that I grow do. And I'm not trying to sell you on this stuff, or anything right now. You can, but yeah, it's awesome and it works. So let me check my notes here really quick so I don't get too far off track. Oh yeah, that's where the realization came in for the first video I did, where nobody's coming to save you. You got to fix yourself. And anyway, there's a method to my madness and how I do my channel. So anyway, that's the deal with the mushroom supplements. I didn't realize back then that this would do what it did so fast. And I also didn't realize that 10 years later, it would become a mushroom supplement company. So that's super exciting, and I'm happy about that. Let me see. Oh yeah, and the other thing is a lot of the stuff that people get in grocery stores, they're just fillers. I mean, let's be real, they're fillers. I physically have toured facilities all over California. Some of the big brands, I won't say their name, but you can figure that out pretty easy. But I toured their facilities and watched their process. And it's ridiculous when people buy mushroom supplements to help fix, especially things like your brain health. I mean, that stuff's important and it matters. And so I'm super big on, growing things and doing it the right way. And that's why I started this YouTube channel, was to help other people, not just with addiction or whatever. Just I've been through the ringer. I mean, too many times. And so if I can help other people, that's the goal here. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up then, unless there's anybody to chat in here. But for those who do watch this down the road from my playlist, I want to say thank you for joining in the fun, and we'll keep growing it from here. All right, we'll talk soon.